"Well, master, we are in a fix, and no mistake," said Sam Gamgee. He stood despondently with hunched shoulders beside Frodo and peered out with puckered eyes into the gloom. They had almost lost count of the hours during which they had climbed and laboured among the barren slopes and stones of the Emin Muil, sometimes retracing their steps because they could find no way forward, sometimes discovering that they had wandered in a circle back to where they had been hours before. Yet on the whole they had worked steadily eastward, keeping as near as they could find a way to the outer edge of this strange twisted knot of hills. But always they found its outward faces sheer, high and impassable, frowning over the plain below. Beyond its tumbled skirts lay vivid festering marshes, where nothing moved and not even a bird was to be seen. Down the face of a precipice, sheer and almost smooth it seemed in the pale moonlight, a small black shape was moving with its thin limbs splayed out. Maybe its soft clinging hands and toes were finding crevices and holds that no hobbit could ever have seen or used, but it looked as if it was just creeping down on sticky pads, like some large prowling thing of insect kind. And it was coming down head first, as if it was smelling its way. Now and again it lifted its head slowly, turning it right back on its long skinny neck, and the hobbits caught a glimpse of two small pale gleaming lights, its eyes that blinked at the moon for a moment and then were quickly lidded again. Now they could hear his voice creaking and whistling. "Ah, cautious, my precious. More haste, less speed. We mustn't risk our neck, must we, precious? No, precious." He lifted his head again, blinked at the moon, and quickly shut his eyes. "We hate it," he hissed. "Nasty, nasty, shivery light it is. Sss! It spies on us, precious. It hurts our eyes." He was getting lower now, and the hisses became sharper and clearer. "Where is it? Where is it? My precious, my precious. It's ours it is, and we wants it. The thieves, the filthy little thieves. Where are they with my precious? Curse them, we hates them." Sam was out of his hiding in a flash and crossed the space between him and the cliff foot in a couple of leaps. Before Gollum could get up, he was on top of him. But he found Gollum more than he bargained for, even taken like that, suddenly off his guard after a fall. Before Sam could get a hold, long legs and arms were wound round him, pinning his arms, and a clinging grip, soft but horribly strong, was squeezing him like slowly tightening cords. Clammy fingers were feeling for his throat. Then sharp teeth bit into his shoulder. All he could do was butt his hard round head sideways into the creature's face. Gollum hissed and spat, but he did not let go. Things would have gone ill with Sam if he had been alone, but Frodo sprang up and drew Sting from its sheath. With his left hand he drew back Gollum's head by his thin lank hair, stretching his long neck and forcing his pale venomous eyes to stare up at the sky. "Let go, Gollum," he said. "This is Sting. You've seen it before once upon a time. Let go or you'll feel it this time. I'll cut your throat." Gollum collapsed and went as loose as wet string. Sam got up, fingering his shoulder. His eyes smouldered with anger, but he could not avenge himself. His miserable enemy lay grovelling on the stones, whimpering. "Don't hurt us! Don't hurt them, hurt us, precious. They won't hurt us, will they, nice little hobbitses? We didn't mean no harm, but they jumps on us like cats on poor mices, they did, precious. And we're so lonely. We'll be nice to them, very nice, if they'll be nice to us, won't we? Yes, yes." "Well, what's to be done with it?" said Sam. "Tie it up so as it can't come sneaking after us no more, I say." But that would kill us, whimpered Gollum. Cruel little hobbitses, tie us up in the cold, hard lands and leave us. Go, go. Sobs welled up in his gobbling throat. No, said Frodo, if we kill him, we must kill him outright. It seemed to Frodo then that he heard quite plainly, but far off, voices out of the past. What a pity Bilbo did not stab the vile creature when he had a chance. Pity? It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy, not to strike without need. I do not feel any pity for Gollum. He deserves death. Deserves death? I dare say he does. Many that live deserve death, and some die that deserve life. Can you give that to them? Then be not too eager to deal out death in the name of justice, fearing for your own safety. Even the wise cannot see all ends. Very well, he answered aloud, lowering his sword, but still I am afraid, and yet, as you see, I will not touch the creature, for now that I see him, I do pity him. Sam stared at his master, who seemed to be speaking to someone who was not there. Gollum lifted his head. Yes, wretched we are, precious, he whined. Misery, misery. Hobbits won't kill us, nice hobbits. No, we won't, said Frodo, but we won't let you go either. You're full of wickedness and mischief, Gollum. You'll have to come with us, that's all, while we keep an eye on you. But you must help us if you can. One good turn deserves another. Yes, yes, indeed, said Gollum, sitting up. Nice hobbits. We will come with them, find them safe paths in the dark, yes we will. And where are they going in these cold hard lands, we wonders, yes, we wonders. He looked up at them, and a faint light of cunning and eagerness flickered for a second in his pale blinking eyes. Sam scowled at him and sucked his teeth, but he seemed to sense that there was something odd about his master's mood, and that the matter was beyond argument. All the same, he was amazed at Frodo's reply. Frodo looked straight into Gollum's eyes, which flinched and twisted away. You know that, or you guess well enough, Smeagol, he said quietly and sternly. We are going to Mordor, of course, and you know the way there, I believe. Ah, said Gollum, covering his ears with his hands, as if such frankness and the open speaking of the names hurt him. We guessed, yes, we guessed, he whispered, and we didn't want them to go, did we? No, precious, not the nice hobbits. Ashes, ashes and dust and thirst there is, and pits, 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 and orcs, thousands of orcses. Nice hobbits mustn't go to those places. So you have been there, Frodo insisted, and you're being drawn back there, aren't you? Yes, yes, no, shrieked Gollum. Suddenly, with startling agility and speed, straight off the ground with a jump like a grasshopper or a frog, Gollum bounded forward into the darkness. But that was just what Frodo and Sam had expected. Sam was on him before he had gone 2 paces after his spring. Frodo, coming behind, grabbed his leg and threw him. Your rope might prove useful again, Sam, he said. Sam got out the rope. And where were you off to in the cold hard lands, Mr. Gollum? He growled. We wonders, aye, we wonders. To find some of your orc friends, I warrant. You nasty, treacherous creature. It's round your neck this rope ought to go, and a tight noose too. Gollum lay quiet and tried no further tricks. He did not answer Sam, but gave him a swift, venomous look. All we need is something to keep a hold on him, said Frodo. We want him to walk, so it's no good tying his legs. Or his arms, he seems to use them nearly as much. Tie one end to his ankle and keep a grip on the other end. He stood over Gollum while Sam tied the knot. The result surprised them both. Gollum began to scream, a thin, tearing sound, very horrible to hear. He writhed and tried to get his mouth to his ankle and bite the rope. He kept on screaming. At last Frodo was convinced that he really was in pain, but it could not be from the knot. He examined it and found that it was not too tight, indeed hardly tight enough. Sam was gentler than his words. "What's the matter with you?" he said. "If you will try to run away, you must be tired, but we don't wish to hurt you." It hurts us, hissed Gollum. "It freezes, it bites. Elves twisted it, curse them. Nasty, cruel hobbits. That's why we tries to escape. Of course it is, precious. We guessed they were cruel hobbits. They visits elves, fierce elves with bright eyes. Take it off us. It hurts us." "No, I will not take it off you," said Frodo. "Not unless," he paused a moment in thought, "not unless there is any promise you can make that I can trust." "We will swear to do what he wants. Yes, yes," said Gollum, still twisting and grabbing at his ankle. "It hurts us." "Swear," said Frodo. "Smeagol," said Gollum suddenly and clearly, opening his eyes wide and staring at Frodo with a strange light. "Smeagol will swear on the precious." Frodo drew himself up, and again Sam was startled by his words and his stern voice. "On the precious? How dare you?" he said. "Think! One ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. Would you commit your promise to that, Smeagol? It will hold you, but it is more treacherous than you are. It may twist your words. Beware." Gollum cowered. On the precious, he repeated. "And what would you swear?" asked Frodo. "Oh, to be very, very good," said Gollum. Then, crawling to Frodo's feet, he grovelled before him, whispering hoarsely. A shudder ran over him, as if the words took his very bones with fear. "Smeagol will swear never, never to let him have it. Never. Smeagol will save it, but he must swear on the precious." "No, not on it," said Frodo, looking down at him with stern pity. "All you wish is to see it and touch it if you can, though you know it would drive you mad. Not on it, swear by it if you will, for you know where it is. Yes, you know, Smeagol, it is before you." "We promises. Yes, I promise," said Gollum. "I will serve the master of the precious. Good master, good Smeagol." Suddenly he began to weep and bite at his ankle again. "Take the rope off, Sam," said Frodo. Reluctantly Sam obeyed. At once Gollum got up and began prancing about like a whipped cur whose master has patted it. From that moment a change, which lasted for some time, came over him. He spoke with less hissing and whining, and he spoke to his companions direct, not to his precious self. He would cringe and flinch if they stepped near him or made any sudden movement, and he avoided the touch of their elven cloaks. But he was friendly and indeed pitifully anxious to please. He would cackle with laughter and caper if any jest was made, or even if Frodo spoke kindly to him, and weep if Frodo rebuked him. Sam said little to him of any sort. He suspected him more deeply than ever, and if possible liked the new Gollum, the Smeagol, less than the old. "Well, Gollum, or whatever it is we're to call you," he said, "now for it. The moon's gone and the night's going. We'd better start." "Yes, yes," agreed Gollum, skipping about. "Off we go. There's only one way across between the north end and the south end. I found it, I did. Orcs don't use it. Orcs don't know it. Orcs don't cross the marshes. They go round for miles and miles. Very lucky you came this way. Very lucky you found Smeagol, yes. Follow Smeagol." He took a few steps away and looked back inquiringly, like a dog inviting them for a walk. In the deep of night, under hard clear stars, they set off. Gollum led them back northward for a while along the way they had come. Then he slanted to the right, away from the steep edge of the Emyn Muil, down the broken stony slopes towards the vast fens below. They faded swiftly and softly into the darkness. Over all the leagues of waste before the gates of Mordor there was a black silence. Gollum moved quickly, with his head and neck thrust forward, often using his hands as well as his feet. "Here it is," he cried. "There's a way down inside, yes. Now we follows it. Out or away over there." He pointed south and east towards the marshes. The reek of them came to their nostrils, heavy and foul even in the cool night air. "We must take a little food," said Frodo. "Are you hungry, Smeagol? We have very little to share, but we will spare you what we can." At the word hungry, a greenish light was kindled in Gollum's pale eyes, and they seemed to protrude further than ever from his thin, sickly face. For a moment he relapsed into his old Gollum manner. "We are famished, yes, famished we are, precious," he said. "What is it they eat? Have they nice fishes?" His tongue lolled out between his sharp yellow teeth, licking his colourless lips. "No, we've got no fish," said Frodo. "We've only got this." He held up a wafer of lembas. "And water, if the water here is fit to drink." Yes, nice water," said Gollum. Drink it, while we can." But what is it they've got, Precious? Is it crunchable? Is it tasty? Frodo broke off a portion of a wafer and handed it to him on its leaf wrapping. Gollum sniffed at the leaf and his face changed. A spasm of disgust came over it, and a hint of his old malice. "Smeagol smells it," he said. "Leaves out of the elf country. Gah! They stinks. He climbed in those trees and he couldn't wash the smell off his hands. My nice hands." Dropping the leaf, he took a corner of the lambas and nibbled it. He spat and a fit of coughing shook him. "Ah, no," he spluttered. "You tried to choke poor Smeagol. Dust and ashes, he can't eat that. He must starve." But Smeagol doesn't mind. Nice hobbits, Smeagol has promised. He will starve. He can't eat hobbits' food. He will starve, poor thin Smeagol. "I'm sorry," said Frodo, "but I can't help you, I'm afraid. I think this food would do you good if you would try, but perhaps you can't even try. Not yet, anyway." For a moment the water below him looked like some window glazed with grimy glass, through which he was peering. Wrenching his hands out of the bog, he sprang back with a cry. "There are dead things," said Frodo. "Dead faces in the water." He said it with horror. Gollum laughed. "The dead Marshes, yes, that is their names," he cackled. "You should not look in when the candles are lit." "Who are they? What are they?" asked Sam, shuddering, turning to Frodo, who was now behind him. "I don't know," said Frodo in a dreamlike voice, "but I've seen them too, in the pools when the candles were lit. They lie in all the pools, pale faces deep, deep under the dark water. I saw them, grim faces and evil, and noble faces and sad. Many faces proud and fair, and weeds in their silver hair, but all foul, all rotting, all dead. A fell light is in them." Frodo hid his eyes in his hands. "I know not who they are, but I thought I saw there men and elves, and orcs beside them." Yes, said Gollum. "All dead, all rotten. Elves and men and orcs, the dead Marshes. There was a great battle long ago, yes, so they told him when Smeagol was young, when I was young before the Precious came. It was a great battle. Tall men with long swords and terrible elves and orcs shrieking. They fought on the plain for days and months at the Black Gates, but the Marshes have grown since then, swallowed up the graves, always creeping. "But that's an age and more ago," said Sam. "The dead can't be really there. Is it some devilry hatched in the dark land?" "Who knows? Smeagol doesn't know," answered Gollum. "You cannot reach them, you cannot touch them. We tried once, yes, Precious, I tried once, but you cannot reach them. Only shapes to see, perhaps, not to touch. No, Precious, all dead." Sam looked darkly at him and shuddered again, thinking that he guessed why Smeagol had tried to touch them. "Well, I don't want to see them," he said. "Never again. Can't we get on and get away?" Yes, said Gollum, "but slowly, very carefully, or hobbits go down to join the dead ones and light little candles." He crawled away to the right, seeking for a path round the mere. They came close behind, stooping, often using their hands even as he did. "3 precious little Gollums in a row we shall be if this goes on much longer," thought Sam. At last they came to the end of the Black Mere, and they crossed it, perilously crawling or hopping from one treacherous island tussock to another. Often they floundered, stepping or falling, hands first, into waters as noisome as a cesspool, till they were slimed and fouled almost up to their necks, and stank in one another's nostrils. Before them, dark in the dawn, the great mountains reached up to roofs of smoke and cloud. Out from their feet were flung huge buttresses and broken hills that were now at the nearest scarce a dozen miles away. Frodo looked round in horror. Dreadful as the dead marshes had been, and the arid moors of the no-man lands, more loathsome far was the country that the crawling day now slowly unveiled to his shrinking eyes. Even to the mere of dead faces some haggard phantom of green spring would come, but here neither spring nor summer would ever come again. Here nothing lived, not even the leprous growths that feed on rottenness. The gasping pools were choked with ash and crawling muds, sickly white and grey, as if the mountains had vomited the filth of their entrails upon the lands about. High mounds of crushed and powdered rock, great cones of earth fire-blasted and poison-stained, stood like an obscene graveyard in endless rows, slowly revealed in the reluctant light. They had come to the desolation that lay before Mordor, the lasting monument to the dark labour of its slaves that should endure when all their purposes were made void, a land defiled, diseased beyond all healing, unless the great sea should enter it and wash it with oblivion. "I feel sick," said Sam. Frodo did not speak. For a while they stood there like men on the edge of a sleep where nightmare lurks, holding it off, though they know that they can only come to morning through the shadows. The light broadened and hardened. The gasping pits and poisonous mounds grew hideously clear. The sun was up, walking among clouds and long flags of smoke, but even the sunlight was defiled. The hobbits had no welcome for that light, unfriendly it seemed, revealing them in their helplessness, little squeaking ghosts that wandered among the ash heaps of the Dark Lord. Strangely enough, Frodo felt refreshed. He had been dreaming. The dark shadow had passed, and a fair vision had visited him in this land of disease. Nothing remained of it in his memory, yet because of it he felt glad and lighter of heart. His burden was less heavy on him. Gollum welcomed him with dog-like delight. He chuckled and chattered, cracking his long fingers and pawing at Frodo's knees. Frodo smiled at him. "Come," he said, "you have guided us well and faithfully. This is the last stage. Bring us to the gate, and then I will not ask you to go further. Bring us to the gate, and you may go wherever you wish, only not to our enemies." "To the gate, eh?" Gollum squeaked, seeming surprised and frightened. "To the gate, Master says?" "Yes, he says so, and good Smeagol does what he asks, oh yes. But when we get closer we'll see, perhaps. We'll see then. It won't look nice at all. Oh no, oh no." Before the next day dawned, their journey to Mordor was over. The marshes and the desert were behind them. Before them, darkling against a pallid sky, the great mountains reared their threatening heads. Upon the west of Mordor marched the gloomy range of Ephel-Duath, the Mountains of Shadow, and upon the north the broken peaks and barren ridges of Ered-Lithiri, grey as ash. But as these ranges approached one another, being indeed but parts of one great wall about the mournful plains of Lithlad and of Gorgoroth, and the bitter inland sea of Nirnan amidmost, they swung out long arms northward, and between these arms there was a deep defile. This was Cirith Gorgor, the haunted pass, the entrance to the land of the enemy. High cliffs lowered upon either side, and thrust forward from its mouth were two sheer hills, black-boned and bare. Upon them stood the teeth of Mordor, two towers strong and tall. In days long past they were built by the men of Gondor in their pride and power, after the overthrow of Sauron and his flight, lest he should seek to return to his old realm. But the strength of Gondor failed, and men slept, and for long years the towers stood empty. Then Sauron returned. Now the watchtowers which had fallen into decay were repaired, and filled with arms, and garrisoned with ceaseless vigilance. Stony-faced they were, with dark window holes staring north and east and west, and each window was full of sleepless eyes. Across the mouth of the pass, from cliff to cliff, the Dark Lord had built a rampart of stone. In it there was a single gate of iron, and upon its battlement sentinels paced unceasingly. Beneath the hills on either side of the rock was bored into 100 caves and maggot holes. There a host of orcs lurked, ready at a signal to issue forth like black ants going to war. None could pass the teeth of Mordor and not feel their bite, unless they were summoned by Sauron or knew the secret passwords that would open the Morannon, the black gate of his land. The two hobbits gazed at the towers and the wall in despair. Even from a distance they could see in the dim light the movement of the black guards upon the wall and the patrols before the gate. They lay now peering over the edge of a rocky hollow beneath the outstretched shadow of the northmost buttress of Ephel-Duath. "No, no, master," wailed Gollum, pawing at him and seeming in great distress. "No use that way, no use. Don't take the precious to him. He'll eat us all if he gets it. Eat all the world. Keep it, nice master, and be kind to Smeagol. Don't let him have it." "There is another way. Oh yes, indeed there is. Another way, darker, more difficult to find, more secret. But Smeagol knows it. Let Smeagol show you." "Another way?" said Frodo doubtfully, looking down at Gollum with searching eyes. Yes, yes, indeed. There was another way. Smeagol found it. Let's go and see if it's still there." "You have not spoken of this before." "No, Master did not ask. Master did not say what he meant to do. He does not tell poor Smeagol. He says, 'Smeagol, take me to the gate and then goodbye.' Smeagol can run away and be good." "Come now, Gollum, or Smeagol, if you wish. Tell me of this other way, and show me, if you can, what hope there is in it. Enough to justify me in turning aside from my plain path. I am in haste." Frodo gathered bit by bit that if a traveller followed the road that turned west of Ephel-Duath, he would come in time to a crossing in a circle of dark trees. On the right a road went down to Osgiliath and the bridges of the Anduin. In the middle the road went on southwards. On, said Gollum. "We never went that way, but they say it goes 100 leagues until you can see the great water that is never still. There are lots of fishes there, and big birds eat fishes. Nice birds. But we never went there, alas no, we never had a chance. And further still there are more lands, they say, but the yellow face is very hot there, and there are seldom any clouds, and the men are fierce and have dark faces. We do not want to see that land." "No," said Frodo, "but do not wander from your road. What of the third turning?" Oh yes, there is a third way," said Gollum. "That is the road to the left. At once it begins to climb up, winding and climbing back towards the tall shadows. When it turns round the black rock, you'll see it. Suddenly you'll see it above you and you'll want to hide." See it? What will you see?" "The old fortress, very old, very horrible now." "But Master will have to go that way. That's the only other way, for the mountains are lower there and the old road goes up and up until it reaches a dark pass at the top, and then it goes down again to Gorgoroth." His voice sank to a whisper and he shuddered. He does not expect to tack that way. His eye is all round, but it attends more to some places than to others. He can't see everything all at once, not yet." Gollum crouched down and his voice sank to a whisper again. "A little path leading up into the mountains, and then a stair, a narrow stair. Oh yes, very long and narrow. And then more stairs, and then..." His voice sank even lower. "A tunnel, a dark tunnel, and at last a little cleft and a path high above the main pass. It was that way that Smeagol got out of the darkness."